I want you to imagine you're a pastor. The average age of people in your congregation is between 65 and 70 years old. Your congregation is located in the rural sticks. The biggest problem your congregation is worried about right now is drought. Now, as a pastor, you're praying that justice will come down like a river, that people will rely on God and God's kingdom will be here on earth. But the lady in the third row is praying for rain. Now the presbytery has this new anti-racism initiative. Now you know that racism is bad, but it's simply not your problem because you don't even have any black people in the congregation. So how could it apply to you? It's not your problem, right? Wrong, and I'm going to prove it to you. The federal workforce is 60% white, 40% people of color. It's been this way since around 2010. But recently, as in this year, this administration decided to stop aggregating data by according to EEOC standards, meaning we don't know how many employees are women, we don't know how many are men, we don't know how many are black, we don't know how many are white, we don't know how many are Asian. So we can't definitively say that these cuts disproportionately affected certain communities, but we know that they did. For example, black women were 33% of the layoffs. Why am I telling you this? Because no matter where you live in the United States, urban or rural area, you are dependent on federal workers. You put your money in the bank. The people who regulate and audit banks are federal workers. You eat meat and poultry. The people who inspect that shit to make sure it doesn't have Texas screwworm or cyclospora or bird flu or whatever else is plaguing us today are federal workers. Air traffic controllers are federal workers. Now you might say, Asia, I don't fly anywhere. Do you live near a river? Because the people who maintain dams and locks on rivers to make sure that your entire home doesn't flood are also federal employees. School teachers, federal employees. Wildlife management, federal employees. Firefighting for wildland, federal employees. And that's without counting the CDBG grants that your state gets from the federal government to make sure you have things like senior centers and community centers and, water treatment and sanitation so you don't have sewage running back up into your house. Food banks so people don't starve to death. Those are funded by CDBG dollars. So unless you live under a rock, don't put your money in the bank, don't eat meat, don't use water, don't ever walk on roads or sidewalks, and don't have any kids in school, racism is your issue. Now, again, you're the pastor and you just found out that racism is a big problem for your entire congregation. But that doesn't mean that your congregation sees it that way. So, what do you do? Hello, I'm Asia Harriet Hales. I'm a race educator and I help congregations and presbyteries understand the difference between a bad apple problem and a bad soil problem. I'm running a 4-week leadership intensive for clergy and lay leaders. That intensive is called the Mother Tree. Using an ecclesial and ecological parable, we examine how enclosure mechanisms work to damage congregational vitality and keep us separate from each other, which is not what God wants for us. I created this specifically for Presbyterians, but I feel like this information is universal for Christians who are looking to live their faith, not just talk about it. If that's you and you want to learn more, go to this link. There is still time to register for the Mother Tree training. You don't want to miss this.